Everyone, before I begin today's session, first of all, Merry Christmas to all of you. Okay, by now we have discussed many aspects of India's freedom struggle, ranging from the arrival of Europeans in India, different commissions probably related to the Famine Commission, then the Education Commission, the peasant movements, and so on. Then we had seen in quite depth and detail the revolt of 1857 and its aftermath. Apart from this, Indian National Congress and the various activities of Indian National Congress precisely related to the moderates and the extremists. In the previous session, we had seen about the Home Rule League movement. And in today's session, we are majorly going to discuss about Lucknow session of Indian National Congress, which took place in 1916. And this session is very crucial from the exam perspective. Why the Lucknow session of Indian National Congress that took place in 1916 very crucial from exam perspective? Because in this session there were two events that took place, and we are going to throw light on these aspects. So those aspirants, those who are new to the platform, I'll be repeating certain things in short, but if you have to understand everything in quite depth and detail, it's a request to all of you, please do watch the previous session so that you can easily correlate the different aspects. Okay. Lucknow merger or Lucknow session of 1916. Now, what were the reasons for Lucknow session of 1916, or what is Lucknow merger all about? Let's understand. In 1905, Lord Curzon had announced the partition of Bengal. And when Lord Curzon had announced the partition of Bengal, he had announced that on the pretext that Bengal has become too big to be administered by a single viceroy. But the intrinsic or the hidden agenda of the Britishers was to divide Bengal on communal lines. Why? Because the West Bengal was a Hindu majority province and East Bengal was a Muslim majority province. And against the partition of Bengal began Swadeshi movement. And the call for Swadeshi movement was taken at Banaras session of Indian National Congress, presided by a moderate leader, Gopal Krishna Gokhale ji, who is also the political guru of M.K. Gandhi. Now, Swadeshi and boycott both are complementary to each other. So both the movements, they began. Now, as the Swadeshi movement started, it is believed that initially it was decided that Swadeshi movement would just remain confined till the region of Bengal. But the movement became quite popular. It was also referred as Vande Mataram movement. And in fact, the newspapers also played a very pivotal and a crucial role in making this movement pan-India, such as the Hindu Patriot, Bangbhasi, Sanjeevani, Amrit Bazar Patrika, Bengali, and so on. With the passage of time, this movement became pan-India. And the major role was being played by Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, Lala Lajpat Rai ji, who is also referred as Sher-e Punjab or Lion of Punjab, Sayyid Haidar Raja ji, Chidambaram Pillai ji, and so on. Now, from 1906, the differences between the two sections of Indian National Congress, moderates and extremists, came into picture. Now, what is the ideological perspective of moderates and extremists? Let me give you a small glimpse of that. Indian National Congress was formed way back in 1885. But right from the start itself, Indian National Congress was divided on an ideological basis into two parts: moderates and the extremists. Moderates, they believed in something called as prayer, protest, and petition. They believed that we want independence, but not all of a sudden, in a gradual step-by-step manner. Okay? And that too within the constitutional limits. We won't be going beyond the constitutional limits. We do not want complete independence. We want self-government. Okay? This was the belief of the moderates. On the other hand, extremists, they believed in one simple theory: complete independence. That's it. In fact, one of the extremist leaders, Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, had said, Swaraj is my birthright and I will have it. Okay? So extremist leaders believe that we want independence at any cost. And for that, even if we have to go for radical approach, we won't back down. We will do that. We can go for extra constitutional limits as well. So this was the belief of the extremist. In 1906, the session of Indian National Congress was held at Calcutta. The extremists believed that here Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji or Lala Lajpat Rai ji should preside the session at Calcutta. But the moderates, they suggested the name of Dada Bhai Navroji, who is also referred as the Grand Old Man of India. Although he was a moderate leader, but still he was one of the most revered and respected personality among all the nationalists. Rather it be a moderate leader or the extremist, everyone revered and respected Dada Bhai Navroji. But here, extremist leaders were successful in passing 4 Calcutta resolutions. And these resolutions are very important from the exam perspective. Questions have been asked in the UPSC Prelims examination. Direct question. What are the 4 Calcutta resolutions? So the 4 Calcutta resolutions were Swaraj, Swadeshi, Boycott, and National Education. Okay, I repeat, Swaraj, Swadeshi, Boycott, and National Education. So in 1906, extremist leaders did not preside, but still they were successful in getting 4 Calcutta resolutions passed. 1907 session. Initially, the venue was Pune or Bombay. Later on, it was shifted to Surat. And here, again, the extremist leaders or the extremist nationalists expected either Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji to preside or Sher-e Punjab, that is Lala Lajpat Rai ji, to preside. But again, the moderates suggested the name of Raj Bihari Ghosh. And here, the specifically the fervor of Indian National Congress now was something different. Now, for the first time in 1907, there were extreme differences between the moderates and the extremists. Moderates had a belief that, like specifically, we have nurtured Indian National Congress for the past 20 to 21 years. And working with extremists is like entering into dangerous waters. On the other hand, extremists believe that for past 20 years, the politics of Indian National Congress was dominated by the moderates. And what is their achievement? Miagar, nothing, except Indian Council Act 1892. So, first of all, if you are not supporting the fellow nationalist in the movement, at least you shouldn't be a hindrance or obstacle in the movement. This is the belief of the extremist. Okay. On one hand, we are spreading the movement throughout the country, making the movement pan-India, working with the nationalists of all the ranks at the grassroots level. On the other hand, the moderates are negotiating further reforms with the Britishers, and this is what the Britishers wanted. So extremists had a belief that moderates are a drag on the movement. So the differences between the moderates and the extremists became quite extensive. In such a situation, in 1907, specifically, session was held at Surat on the banks of river Tapti. And from here onwards, the moderates and the extremists parted their ways. So there was split in Indian National Congress. Okay. As we had seen in previous sessions, Britishers have always adopted 2 major policies in the country. Divide and rule, and second is carrot and stick policy. This is what the Britishers wanted. What happened? Now, Britishers wanted to come up heavily on the extremist. So what did they do? They offered a bait of fresh reform to the moderates who overnight became loyalist. And they came up with Indian Council Act 1909, also referred as Morley-Minto reforms. Morley was Secretary of State for India and Minto was Viceroy of India. And Britishers came up heavily on the extremist. In fact, the newspaper was gagged. Different acts were brought in to suppress the press. Apart from this, Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji was put behind the bars and moved to Mandalay jail for the next 6 years. Lala Lajpat Rai ji, initially he went to England and from there he went to US. Aurobindo Ghosh ji, he specifically settled in Pondicherry. Bipin Chandra Pal, he retired from the active politics. So the movement became quite weak. And now, the period from 1908 to 1914 was a period of political vacuum in the country. People had accepted slavery as a part of their life. And this is what the Britishers wanted. In 1914, Annie Besant, who was initially associated with Theosophical Society, which was formed by Colonel Olcott and Madame Blavatsky. So Annie Besant, she was initially associated with Theosophical Society. Now she started, or she came up with an idea of Home Rule League movement. And she put forward this idea in front of Bal Gangadhar Tilakji, who was released from Mandalay jail finally in 1914. And this was acceptable to him. In April 1916, Bal Gangadhar Tilakji initiated Indian Home Rule League. And in September 1916, Annie Besant, she started Home Rule League movement. In fact, Bal Gangadhar Tilakji started his league at Belgaum in Karnataka, and his headquarters was at Pune. His league was operative at 6 different places. On the other hand, Annie Besant's league, it had more than 200 branches, and George Arundale was a secretary of Annie Besant's league. Okay, the activities of precisely the Annie Besant's league, or in general, the activities of Home Rule League movement, to an extent, were similar like the activities of the moderates, but significantly new. Why significantly new? Because for the past 6 years, there was a political vacuum in the country. There was no major movement across the country. Yes, there were many revolutionary activities that were going on, but no major mass movement in the country. Okay, so when the Home Rule League movement and its activities got started, people started regaining back the lost fervor, the lost enthusiasm, and the nationalist zeal. So, Home Rule League movement was successful. And now, in 1916, Indian National Congress session was held at Lucknow. And this session was presided by a moderate leader whose name was Ambika Charan Muzumdarji. Okay? And here, moderates and extremists forgot their old differences and decided that now we are going to work again together. So what were the things that facilitated the merger of the two sections of Indian National Congress? Let's throw light on that. First, old controversies have become meaningless now. There's no point in discussing what happened to Firoz Shah Mehta ji, which extremist leader was specifically involved in any act of violence. So there is no point of discussing all these aspects. Okay, they have become meaningless now. And both the sections of Indian National Congress has seen this. Britishers wanted this. And Britishers had fulfilled their agenda, because for past 6 years, there's a political vacuum in the country. No major movement across the country. Secondly, moderates and extremists realized the split led to political inactivity for the 6 years. Annie Besant and Tilak had made rigorous efforts. Tilak had declared all the acts of violence. Now, Bal Gangadhar Tilakji, initially what did he say? Bal Gangadhar Tilakji, initially he had said one thing: Swaraj is my birthright and I will have it at any cost. Now, Bal Gangadhar Tilakji, in fact, if you remember, we had seen about the Home Rule League movement in quite depth and detail. And we had spoken about the aims and objective of Bal Gangadhar Tilakji's league. One objective was education in vernacular language. The second one was formation of states on linguistic basis. And the third one was Swaraj. But definition of Swaraj for Bal Gangadhar Tilakji now has changed. And what's that? Initially, Swaraj was complete independence. Now, even Bal Gangadhar Tilakji is supporting self-government. So, Swaraj here is self-government. Okay? And the most important aspect, what happens here? The Indian National Congress now requires a very strong leadership. Because Gopal Krishna Gokhale ji, who is also the political guru of N.K. Gandhi, And Firoz Shah Mehta ji, who is also referred as Lion of Bombay, has passed away. Okay, so the death of these two moderate leaders, it had created a vacuum in Indian National Congress. And Indian National Congress required a very strong leadership now. And this strong leadership can be viewed in the form of Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji. So all these factors promoted the Lucknow merger. Okay, the moderates and extremists forgot their differences and now they decided that they are going to work together. Hope the point is clear. One more point I'll tell you. In the coming years, Home Rule League movement was merged into Indian National Congress, and Home Rule League movement was also referred as Swarajya Sabha. Please note this point, it's a very important one. And M.K. Gandhi had become one of the important leaders of Swarajya Sabha. Clear? So this is all about Lucknow merger. Hope the point is clear, my friends. Okay, I've tried to explain the things in a step-by-step manner for easier understanding of the concepts. Clear? Hope, guys, you have a good plans for today's Christmas Eve, correct? Like many of you might be planning for going out with your friends, correct? Isn't that so? Do not worry. Do enjoy the Christmas and the New Year. So, before that, let's discuss about the Lucknow Pact as well. Before I speak about Lucknow Pact of 1916, now let me tell you about one important aspect. Now, why All India Muslim League, which was initially opposed to working with Indian National Congress, why now All India Muslim League has decided to work with Indian National Congress. Let's understand about this and let's go into the genesis and basics of that. Indian National Congress, it was formed in 1885. And at that time, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, he had asked the Muslim section to stay aloof from Indian National Congress. Because in his belief, Indian National Congress was a party of politically elite Hindus. Okay, it was a belief of whom? It was a belief of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. In fact, he was also loyal towards Britishers during the revolt of 1857. So he asked the Muslim section to stay aloof from Congress. But in 1887, the session of Indian National Congress was held in Madras. And this session was presided by Badruddin Tayyabji, the first Muslim president. And from here onwards, the number of delegates, precisely the Muslim delegates in Indian National Congress, started increasing. In fact, the Muslims played a very crucial role in maintaining Hindu-Muslim unity during the Swadeshi movement. On the insistence of Rabindranath Tagore ji, it is believed that Hindus and Muslims tied Rakhis on each other's wrist as a part of Raksha Bandhan festival during Swadeshi movement. So, at that time, what did Britishers do? Britishers tried to poison the minds of certain section of the Muslims. So what did Britishers, like specifically Lord Curzon do? He asked certain section of the Muslim that, do you know why there is educational development of Hindus? Because there is Calcutta University. Support the partition of Bengal. I will establish a residential university in Dhaka. You know why there is economic upliftment of Hindus? Because of the Calcutta port. Support the partition of Bengal and I promise I'll build another port in the form of Chittagong port. So in 1906, Muslim Educational Conference was called at Dhaka. And when Muslim Educational Conference was called at Dhaka, what happened? Certain section of the Muslims, they took the advantage of this. For example, Nawab Salimullah of Dhaka, Nawab Moshin ul Mulk, and Aga Khan. And they formed a political party which was referred as All India Muslim League in 1906. The headquarters of All India Muslim League was located in Lucknow. In fact, one of the branches of Muslim League was established in London by Amir Ali. So, All India Muslim League was formed. Now, All India Muslim League started working as a political party parallel to Indian National Congress. They also held their sessions annually. They also put forward certain demands in front of Britishers. Okay. And in fact, it is believed that they were opposed to Indian National Congress. And apart from this, they were pro-Britishers because they had a belief that some or the other day, Britishers are going to repay back us for our loyalty. And in fact, as a part of Morley-Minto reforms, what had happened? Muslim League had demanded separate electorate for Muslims. And Britishers had given separate electorate to Muslims as per Indian Council Act 1909 or Morley-Minto reforms. Okay, now in 1911, there was annulment of partition of Bengal. And now Calcutta, this is not the capital of India, the British India. The capital was transferred to Delhi. And the certain sections of the Muslim, they were completely annoyed by this. Their dreams were completely shattered. So there were certain sections of the Muslims within the Muslim League. Okay, they were very annoyed with the slavish mentality of the other Muslim sections. What did we get in return by maintaining loyalty towards Britishers? So these members were referred as Young Party, and they believed that Young Party or All India Muslim League now requires a strong leadership. And now they requested Muhammad Ali Jinnah, okay, who is also referred as Muslim Gokhale, to come and take the charge of All India Muslim League. Okay. This was not liked by Aga Khan. So Aga Khan, he resigned from the presidentship of All India Muslim League. And Muhammad Ali Jinnah, he joined All India Muslim League and changed the course of history. Now, meanwhile, what had happened? World War I got initiated. Now, what all things happened during the World War I? Let's focus on that. I'll give you a very small example. Just give me a second. Now, why we need to understand World War I and why we need to understand that Muslim League has now decided to work with Indian National Congress, it is very important. Okay. Now, it is believed that Germany, it was initially opposed to France. And against France, Germany had followed the policy of splendid isolation. Okay. And this policy was followed by Bismarck, one of the key architects of German unification. And after Bismarck comes Kaiser William. And he completely reversed the politics or the foreign policy of Bismarck. And what did he adopt? Like, it is believed that Austria and Russia both were fighting for the Balkan region. Okay. Both were fighting for Balkan regions, Austria and Russia. Meanwhile, Germany had signed a treaty with Austria. And this antagonized whom? Russia. So Germany and Austria dual alliance was created. Just try and understand this. Okay. Austria and Russia are fighting over the Balkan regions. So this antagonized Russia. But previously, what happened? Bismarck was very intelligent personality. And he was an ardent diplomat. So he had signed, what we say, Germany had also signed reinsurance treaty with Russia and said that here, I do not have any, or we do not have any interest in the Balkan regions. In fact, Austria and Russia is fighting over the Balkan regions. And if there is any fight over the Balkan regions between Austria and Russia, Germany won't be interfering. So please do not worry about this. So this was said by whom? Bismarck. So Russia, although it was antagonized, but Russia now stayed neutral. With the passage of time, there came another person whose name was Kaiser William. And he had come up with a new policy, and that policy was Weltpolitik. Now, what is Weltpolitik? Germany should be involved in every economic and political things. Okay, rather it be in Europe or it be specifically any part of the world. And now Britain and France were having a command over the seas. The country which has ruled the waters has ruled the world. One of the finest examples is Britain, a small island country which has ruled over 24 to 28% of the world at that time. Why? Command over the waters. And now Germany declares the future of trade lies in waters. And who has the command of over waters? Britain and France. This antagonized Britain and France. But initially, Britain ignored this. But by 1906, German Navy, it became the second strongest navy across the world after Britain. So now Britain, France, and Russia, they joined hands together because this person had also broken the reinsurance treaty signed with Russia. So here, Britain, France, and Russia, here, Germany, Austria, Hungary, Turkey, and Italy. Okay. Now, World War I began. Turkey was a Muslim nation. Now, I'll tell you one thing. In 1919, after the end of World War I, Treaty of Versailles was signed. And it is believed that harsh terms and Treaty of Versailles and Treaty of Sevres, harsh terms and conditions were imposed on Turkey because the ruler of Turkey was not just a political head. He was also considered as a religious head. He was considered as a caliph. And specifically, it is believed that position of caliph was overthrown. Muslim symbols were being destroyed. And this hurted the sentiments of Muslims across the world, including India. And this began way back in 1914 itself, when the World War I had initiated. So this had hurted the sentiments of All India Muslim League. And certain sections of the Muslim League, they believed that what did we get in return by maintaining slavish mentality, loyalty towards Britishers? So now they decided that we are going to work with Indian National Congress now and demand for India's independence. And now, same session, 1916 Lucknow session, presided by Ambika Charan Muzumdar ji. It is believed that Indian National Congress now decided to work with All India Muslim League, and it is known as Lucknow Pact. Now, what were the important conditions of the pact? Let's understand. Yes, please pay attention carefully because certain conditions would be proving quite derogatory for Indian National Congress in the future, because these points again would be reiterated after Nehru report in Jinnah's 14-point plan. So please understand the terms and conditions very carefully, because certain terms and conditions are acceptable and certain terms and conditions specifically would prove derogatory in future. How? Let's understand. Joint demand. Okay. Muslim League sought for a joint platform with Indian National Congress to put pressure on the British government. Okay. First of all, Muslims and the Congress jointly demanded self-government for India. Initially, Indian National Congress was demanding self-government. Simple words, we don't want complete independence. Okay. As a part of self-government, we are free to choose our own representatives, and these representatives would be working under the British Crown. So initially, this was demanded by INC, not by Muslim League. Now, both of them are commonly demanding what? Self-government. The point which will create rupture in the future. Muslims should be given 1/3 representation in central government. In fact, here the point should be minorities, not just Muslims. How? For example, suppose there are 100 seats in the central legislature. Out of 100 seats, 33 seats should be given to Muslims. The point is acceptable if it is in terms of minorities, not just Muslims. Correct? But here the demand was 1/3 seats for Muslims at that time. And this was also accepted as a part of Lucknow Pact by Indian National Congress. Further, there should be separate electorate for all the communities. Okay, I'll give you a very simple example. What's the difference between separate electorate and reservation of seats? I had already given you this example. I'll reiterate this example. I'll repeat this example. As a part of Morley Minto reforms 1909, it is believed that separate electorate was given to the Muslim section. Okay. Now, what is a separate difference between separate electorate and reservation of seats? Suppose there is a constituency, and in that constituency there are 100 members. Out of 100 members, 70 are Muslims and 30 they belong to rest of the communities, the other communities. Okay. If a particular constituency has been declared as a separate electorate for Muslim, the candidate who is standing for election compulsorily needs to be a Muslim. Plus, the members of the entire constituency won't be voting. The members of only Muslim community has the right to vote. Very simple words. As a part of separate electorate, the candidate who is standing for election and the voter both belong to the same community. And as a part of reservation of seats, the candidate who is standing for election will belong to the community for whom the seat is reserved. But the member of entire constituency will vote. That is the difference between separate electorate and reservation of seats. So in 1909, separate electorate was given to the Muslim. And now it has been extended to whom? Now they are demanding that we'll extend this to all communities. This was accepted by Indian National Congress. This will create a rupture in the future. Why? Because in Nehru report, when the Nehru report will come, it directly highlights one important point. No separate electorate for any community. Now here they have accepted as a part of Lucknow Pact, separate electorate for all the communities. But in future, when the Nehru report will come in 1929, clearly it has been mentioned no separate electorate for any community. Okay, so this will become a point of rupture again. Then number of members in Imperial Legislative Council should be increased to 150. Okay, like we had seen initially, the additional members as per Indian Council Act 1892 were 10 to 16. In Imperial Legislative Council, as per Morley Minto reforms in 1909, the number of members have been increased from 16 to 60. Correct? 60. Now the demand is the number of members in the Imperial Legislative Council should be increased to 150. Now the most important demand, again, which will become one of the major causes of friction in future. Pay attention to this carefully. At the provincial level, 4 by 5th member of Legislative Council should be elected, 1 by 5th should be nominated. Okay, very simple words. Suppose in the provinces there are 100 seats. Out of 100, 80 should be elected, 20 should be nominated. Okay, then provincial legislature 125 in major provinces and 50 to 75 in minor provinces. This part is very, very important. And this will become one of the major causes of friction in the coming, what we say, years. In fact, you will observe the same point that would be reiterated and repeated in Jinnah's 14-point plan. Same point, exactly the same. Not even the wordings of the point have changed. And what is that? No bill concerning a community should be passed if 3 by 4th members of that community oppose that bill. Okay, let me explain this with the help of a simple example. Friends, the law is made by the entire parliament, not by a particular community. Okay, like presently, we observe one theory which is called a social contract theory. And what's that? We people do not sit in the parliament. We people do not sit in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha and make the laws. We don't sit in Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad and make the law. What do? We choose our representatives. That is MPs, member of parliament, MLAs and so on. Correct? And they make rules and regulation. They make law on our behalf. So if any law that needs to be that needs to come up, it is made by the entire parliament, not by a particular community. Isn't that so? For example, if a certain law needs to be made on Muslim section, example, triple talaq. Okay. Obviously, the consent of the Muslim section is required. But here, all the member of the parliament will vote on that, not a particular community. So what does this say, this law? I'll give you a very simple example. Suppose there are 100 members in the Imperial Legislative Council. Okay. Out of 100 members, 28 are Muslims. I'm giving you an example for easier understanding of the concept. Okay. Out of 100 members, 28 are Muslims. Now, precisely speaking, what are they demanding here? If any particular law needs to be made for any particular community, 3/4 member of that community should support it. So here, suppose a law needs to be made for a Muslim community, 3/4 of 28, if they are supporting, it will become a law. And if they are rejecting it, it won't become a law. What about the rest 79? Correct? Law is made by the entire parliament, not by a single community. So this point, although accepted by Indian National Congress here, it will become a major bone of contention in the future. This point, this was also opposed by whom? This point was opposed by Tej Bahadur Sapru. This point was opposed by Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya. This point was opposed by B.S. Munji. That all these things, separate electorate, it will become a bone of contention in the future. Okay. So these were the major clauses and these are the common points. Like terms of legislative council should be 5 years. Then member of legislative council should elect their president. Half of the member of Imperial Legislative Council should be Indians. Half of the member of Viceroy's Executive Council should be Indian. Like, I'll give you a small example. As per Indian Council Act 1861, Viceroy's Executive Council had 6 members. All the 6 were Englishmen. In 1892, same thing was retained. Okay. Like there were 6 important portfolios such as, I'll give you a small example. Revenue, finance, home, military, law and public affairs. So till 1892, all the members were Englishmen. In 1909, an Indian law member was added into Viceroy's Executive Council. And Satyendra Prasad Sinha ji was the first law member. Okay. So this was nothing but these are the important clauses of what we say, Lucknow Pact. So Lucknow Pact, it was opposed by whom? Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya. B.S. Munji. It was opposed by Tej Bahadur Sapru. But it was supported by Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji because he believed that at least this will promote Hindu-Muslim unity. Okay. So specifically from the side of Indian National Congress, the Lucknow Pact was signed by Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji. And from the side of All India Muslim League, the Lucknow Pact was signed by whom? One of the important leaders, that is Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who is also referred as Muslim Gokhale. So my friends, this was all about All India Muslim League. Hope so the point is clear till here. Okay. Now let's speak about emergence of Gandhi for the next 5 minutes and then I'll stop my words. Everything is available as a part of the PDF of the PPT. I'll make sure that you guys get a compiled PDF from arrival of Europeans till 1923, that is Swaraj Party. I'll make sure that you get a compiled PDF. The students who are new to the platform, they can get the compiled PDF on my Telegram channel, history_Alok Ojha. Clear? Now let's speak about emergence of Gandhi in short. Basic introduction about Mahatma Gandhi, MK Gandhi. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, he was born on 2nd October 1869. And precisely he was born at Porbandar. At a very young age, he was married. And like precisely, he had an aspiration to go to London to complete his degree in law. He goes to London and he was introduced to Bhagavad Gita for the first time in London. After completing his degree in law, he came back to India for some time. He practiced as a lawyer. And after some time, he had two options: either to register himself at Bar Council in London and practice as a lawyer, or work as a legal advisor for the company of Dada Abdullah or Sheikh Abdullah in South Africa. So he decided that he'll work as a legal advisor for the company of Dada Abdullah. Now he goes to South Africa. And when he goes to South Africa, he reaches a place called as Pietermaritzburg. And here he was thrown out of the first class railway compartment. Now he goes to Dada Abdullah and inquires about this. Is this the condition that was given to me, or is this the condition of every Asian or Indian living in South Africa? Here he comes to know that there are three kinds of Asians or Indians living in South Africa. UPSC has asked a question on this. That is indentured laborers, ex-indentured laborers, and Memon Muslims. Indentured laborers are those laborers, those who have come from different parts of Asia and India, and they're working on contract basis on the plantation field. The working condition is completely inhuman. They are forced to work for 12 to 14 hours on daily basis, including women and children. Ex-indentured laborers, like they have came on contract basis, but they're staying in South Africa because they do believe that even if we go back to India, okay, we would be treated in the same manner by the Britishers, but at least we have employment opportunities here. And then comes Memon Muslims, who were majorly the merchants, and their condition was very derogatory. For example, if I'm staying in South Africa as an indentured laborer, if I have to purchase a bread from a nearby shop, I had to carry a passport size of document to reveal my identity. I cannot use the footpath that was being used by an Englishman. If any Englishman is passing by, okay, I have to kneel down in front of him. Forget about bowing down. I had to kneel down in front of him. And now, M.K. Gandhi decided to fight for the cause of Indians living in South Africa. And so, M.K. Gandhi coined the term Satyagraha for the first time in his newspaper Indian Opinion in South Africa, not in India. So the term Satyagraha was not coined in India, but in South Africa. Okay? And now he started what we say newspaper called as Indian Opinion in South Africa. He had set up Natal Indian Congress. Like for example, if I have to if I have to move from one province to the other, if I have to move from Natal to Transvaal, I had to pay 2 to 5 pounds as a tax. Okay. Like for example, if I have to cross the border of one province, I am earning 7 pounds. I'm paying 4 to 5 pounds as a tax. Okay. So he decided to fight for the cause of Indians living there. Later on, it is said that he started, like many of the Satyagrahis who joined the movement of M.K. Gandhi, they were being jailed. And for them, he had started the Tolstoy farm in South Africa. The name Tolstoy farm was given by one of his German associate, whose name was Hermann Kallenbach, because M.K. Gandhi was quite inspired by the teachings of Thoreau, Emerson, and Tolstoy. So it is believed that M.K. Gandhi's South African experiment became quite famous. Okay. Britishers had passed one act, and that act was like any marriages which has not been done as per Christian rites and rituals are illegal. And the children born out of these marriages are illegitimate. So this was a derogatory insult towards the women of India. So M.K. Gandhi started a massive movement in South Africa, and the same movement was started by Gopal Krishna Gokhale, the political guru of M.K. Gandhi in India. Finally, Britishers had to take back this act. Okay. Anyways, M.K. Gandhi came back to India, and when M.K. Gandhi came back to India in 1915 for the second time, initially in 1909, he had come to India once. And here he came on a ship named as Kildonan Castle. And he wrote a book called as Hind Swaraj. M.K. Gandhi was ambidextrous. He wrote this book within 10 days using both his hands. Okay, so he can write with both his hands. So the book Hind Swaraj was written in 1909 within 10 days. In 1915, he came to India. We do celebrate Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. One more important fact I'm telling you. If a question has been asked in the examination, which was a session of Indian National Congress as attended by M.K. Gandhi for the first time, I am pretty sure 80% of the students will answer 1924 session. My friends, MK Gandhi, what we say, presided the 1924 session, which was held at Belgaum in Karnataka. For the first time, MK Gandhi participated in the session of Indian National Congress in 1901, not in 1924. 1924, he presided, the only session to be presided by MK Gandhi. Okay. So in 1915, he came back to India. And when he came to India, initially, he directly did not enter into the mainstream politics. He toured the entire India on the advice of his political guru, Gopal Krishna Gokhale ji. And in 1917, for the very first time, he got the opportunity to enter into mainstream Indian politics. How? Champaran Satyagraha. Okay, like Champaran, it is located in northern part of Bihar. Here, Britishers had forced the peasants to cultivate indigo under Teen Kathiya system. And what is Teen Kathiya system? Compulsorily, one has to cultivate indigo on 3/20th part of his land. For example, if I have 20 acres of land, compulsorily I have to cultivate indigo on 3 acres of my land. Okay. So a local peasant whose name was Rajkumar Shukla ji, he invited MK Gandhi to Champaran. MK Gandhi, he came with specifically JB Kriplani. Okay. He came with Kriplani ji, then Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Mazhar ul Haq, Mahadev Desai, and so on. And the district collector of Champaran initially stopped him. His name was Hekok. Later on, he was allowed entry into Champaran, and Champaran Agrarian Committee was formed. MK Gandhi himself was one of the members of Champaran Agrarian Committee. And finally, Teen Kathiya system was abolished. And from now onwards, Indian National Congress was mainly driven by Gandhian ideology, which was based on twin pillars of Satya and Ahimsa, truth and non-violence. So this was a short video precisely on the Lucknow merger and the Lucknow pact, which took place in 1916, presided by a moderate leader, Ambika Charan Muzumdar ji, and the emergence of MK Gandhi. My friends, now I'll talk about the beautiful surprises. As a part of Christmas Day sale, 50% off is there on all the UPSC courses, rather it be in Hindi plus English, that is bilingual, rather it be in Hindi, and the most important, on English language courses. There is a separate batch for English language, rather it be for 2027 and 2028. 50% off on the courses. And this sale is valid till 27 December. Now comes the most important surprise. And what's that? 25th of December. That is today. If you purchase any course above 10,000, any course, it's not just about UPSC, any course, state PSC, by using the code ALOK Live, that is flashing on your screen. Okay. So if you purchase any course above 10,000, you will get an assured gift. It's not that you will be getting the gift. You will get an assured gift. Rather it be in the form of an iPhone or a smartwatch or a tablet or an earbuds or the earphones. Okay. But this is valid only for today. That is 25th of December. If you purchase any course above 10,000 across StudyIQ platform, not just UPSC. So use the code ALOK Live that is flashing on your screen. This is one of the best opportunities that you can grab. Okay. So with this, I'll stop my words for the day. See you guys in the next session. Once again, Merry Christmas to all of you. Thank you.